Welcome back to the Makers of MidCity podcast. I'm your host, Clark Dunn, and today I have the opportunity to sit down with David Wilson of RCP Companies. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Clark. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk a little bit about multifamily living and kind of the landscape here in Huntsville and the landscape here at MidCity. Before we dive into talking a little bit about that, give us a little bit of a high level of your career. You've been in this realm and in this industry for a long time, and just recently moved over to RCP. But give us a little bit of a breakdown of who you are.
Okay, great. Well, I originally from Dallas, grew up in Dallas, Texas, moved here about 32 years ago, and I was a commercial real estate appraiser and did a lot of different property types, retail, office, industrial, apartments, and so forth. Developed a niche in the apartment world pretty early on by creating information. There was no information here on the market. And so I inventoried properties, started collecting information, and started statistically tracking apartment properties and performance.
Yeah.
And so did that for a while in conjunction with my with my appraisal business, and then specialized in apartments, got into market research and market analysis for new developments, and then aligned myself with a brokerage company out of Birmingham that was specialized in apartments. That was a new venture. And started tracking apartments in 7 different markets: Birmingham, Mobile, Montgomery, Chattanooga, Pensacola, Tallahassee.
Wow.
And so producing market research reports for all those markets. And then eventually decided to get into the brokerage business and became a broker. So I've been a broker for the last 20 years, specializing exclusively on apartments.
Wow.
I guess the last year is an exception to that when I was at Crunkleton Commercial Real Estate here in town. But prior to that, I was at Berkadia Real Estate Advisors, one of the nation's largest apartment finance companies and brokerage companies for 10 years. And I ran their Alabama office for the last 3 of that. And then before that was kind of juggling apartment brokerage, apartment appraisal, market studies, and all that. So, But I came into MidCity and RCP. I've known Max Grillier, the founder, one of the founders of MidCity and RCP, 25 years ago.
Wow.
And so we've known each other for a long time. And I was involved with the MidCity development early on with listing the first apartment site here and bringing developers to the table to develop the first property here.
Wow.
So I was involved with that and some of the design elements of that even. So that was
it's kind of a full circle now that you're kind of now a part of the team and now kind of working day in and day out on this project and other properties within RCP's kind of portfolio.
That's right. That's right. I was kind of a consultant and broker, third party, kind of around the edges. So I knew a lot of the people here, all the people here, and they're here at the time. And then, but now it's great to be part of the team and really getting to spend my days, helping with not only just the multifamily, but other property types here as well, and just being a resource.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the multifamily and the apartment scene here in Huntsville, even since you've been here and in the last 10 years, has completely changed the landscape of Huntsville, kind of the surrounding areas. Before we kind of talk a little bit about the last, the current landscape where we sit in 2025 as we're recording this and going into the new year, give us sort of that rundown of that growth. Because I feel like since maybe 2020, 2021, we've just seen an uptick in multifamily properties, apartments being built all across the city. Kind of give us why was that such a need at the time, and kind of what has the trajectory looked like as we're sitting at the end of 2025?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. The climate here has been fantastic for the economic climate for the 30 years plus I've been here. And so it's always been a growth market. And land is plentiful here. Barriers to entry are very low as far as being able to develop properties. You got cotton fields and easy development. The city is very progressive and pro growth, and so they're encouraging development in all areas. But we've been slowly growing, and if you look back, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I mean, if we had 4 or 5 properties under construction at one time, that was like
it was big
we were
news.
kind of
Yeah,
nervous.
100%.
Yeah, and but after COVID and the migration that was happening around the country, we've got a great quality of life, a great story here, great job opportunities, high incomes. Just it's a rated #1 city to live in, for a couple of years straight. So it's really gotten on the map for people to move to if they're looking around to, where do I go? Plus there's just organic growth going on here. So the combination of low interest rates during, 2020, 2021, the migration, we didn't have a lot of apartment stock, and our apartment market, which had typically been a kind of a low 90% market, 92, 93%, which is okay, but not great. We got to a market pretty quickly to where it was like 97, 98% occupied, like one of the highest in the country.
Wow.
And then our rent started to grow, and we were getting, 7 and 8% rent growth a year over year, which is like unheard of. And so the combination of just great performance and very much a shortage of apartments for a couple of years, and cheap interest rates and great growth story and great national praise that we're getting, that's like rocket fuel to developers.
Yeah.
And then the city is like build. And so it was kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And so it really ramped up in 2021. We had about, before that we had about 1,000 units under construction, then it went to 2,000, then it went over to 4,000 the next year. And in 2024, we peaked out at about 6,500 units a year.
Wow. And that's not even just like the main Huntsville. It's like the surrounding area too. Or is it only the Huntsville city kind of, is that the numbers that you're pulling for that?
Well, great question. That's really the Huntsville-Madison area, which is really Madison County and gets into Limestone County. There's some growth going, into Limestone County in the city of Huntsville, but does not get into Athens.
Okay.
So when I'm talking the Huntsville area, I'm really talking about the Huntsville-Madison area, but not really Athens.
Yeah. And so, what's interesting too is I think about, obviously that influx and kind of the changing in the economy kind of in that 2020, 2021 kind of kicked off the huge growth in new development in Huntsville. Was prior to that, obviously we've had growth and we've had these announcements coming, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those announcements and how it affects the multifamily landscape. But was the pool of apartments prior to that just so drastically low based on the landscape we were sitting in maybe 2018, 2017? Or was it a perfect storm in that the growth of Huntsville, the acknowledgments that we were getting, plus the announcements deemed us worthy or ready for new developments?
I'd say a little bit of both. There's a lot of changes that have gone on in the apartment industry, and particularly in the Huntsville market. So if you go back 5 or 6 years, we didn't have the one-story product here. That's kind of a new thing across the country, and it really started out west. But we're one of the top 20 markets in the country now for the one-story BFR properties, built for rent properties. Where we're sitting at MidCity, we've got structured park properties where we've got high density elevator access, interior corridor properties that have parking decks. That didn't exist here for 7 years ago,
which is crazy. And because I think you look at other maybe similar markets or other areas, maybe going up towards Tennessee, Chattanooga, over to Atlanta, wherever it might be, and kind of where we're seeing the trajectory is kind of what they were experiencing maybe 10, 12 years ago. We're starting to see that now too, but it's such a, I think, as someone who's grown up here in Huntsville native, and kind of seeing that landscape and that the way it looks, it is it's now become kind of that standard, like what we're in today and where we're sitting today at RCP's office. The apartments, the multifamily properties here in MidCity has kind of become the standard you'll see all across the city, and kind of moving into that new wave. Is that do you see that sort of standard as being kind of the standard set for the next X amount of years, or do you see that continuing to develop and change based on the need of the economy?
Yeah, we've grown up in
Mm.
Huntsville. I mean, as a city, we've
Yeah.
grown up, and the type of properties that we're offering now are kind of next level that we didn't have. That
Mm.
are, you know, we have a lot of people moving here from all over the country, and these are the type of properties that we're developing here at MidCity, and others are doing downtown and in Providence. They're things that you would see in Nashville or Atlanta or Charlotte, some bigger markets. So we've kind of risen to that next level with the type of products that we're
Mm.
delivering, and people want and
Or almost
demand.
expecting it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's differentiated now. We've got
Mhm.
your typical 3-story garden style property, we call it, versus your high density property versus your built for rent property. So there's all kinds of different product types there. But that perfect storm that was emerging, it's created some challenges.
Yeah.
And there was a time that we had over 75 properties in lease up at one time.
Wow.
And so you can look at other markets that are triple our size across the country. They don't even have that. I
Mm.
mean, we were growing so fast, and the developers started, building so fast that we got ahead of ourselves, and we had so much product, and still do have a excess of product right now
Mm.
that we're working through. But it's, we've been discovered, and it's,
Yeah.
the developers, we're a known commodity now across the country.
Mm.
So, several years ago, if you went to apartment industry conferences and things, wherever they were in the country, and you mentioned Huntsville, they'd be like, wow, that's where I want to be and develop, because high incomes, great quality of life, it's just on the radar screen now.
Yeah, and I think that the secret that Huntsville was for so long has now become not so secret, and you kind of have this, there's plenty of times my wife and I will be traveling, and they'll ask, where are you from, and we'll say Huntsville, and they're like, oh, I know Huntsville because of this, that, or the other. It's because of maybe it's something happening here at MidCity, maybe it's with the Orion, maybe it's with whatever. Like, oh, I went to a concert there, or it's we were someplace and we said we're from Huntsville, and they said, oh, y'all are getting this restaurant. We have one of those, back where I'm from, wherever it was. And it was just this cool sort of, the secret's out. People are kind of knowing and kind of hearing and staying in tune with what's going on here in Huntsville.
Mhm.
Looking now at kind of at the multifamily here in MidCity, talk a little bit about the 4 properties that MidCity has and kind of what that landscape is. Kind of starting with maybe the first property that they had, which I believe was the Encore. Maybe
Well, it's
transitioning.
actually Metronome, which is where we
Metronome.
are
Okay.
now,
Yeah.
which is where we are. So all the properties here are mixed use
Mm.
properties, and they're high density, structured parking decks. These are 4 or 5-story elevator properties, very high amenity levels, great walkability, which is something that's fairly unique in the Huntsville market, other than downtown or Providence. But these are kind of the next level kind of properties. Metronome, 296 units, which is where we are now. It's got ground floor retail along the Main Street area, and Tupelo Honey is at the corner there. Our office building's at another corner, so it is true mixed use. And then Encore is down the street just a tad, and that's got commercial space on the ground floor as well. Great rooftop, lounge area, and just very nice amenities, very nice finishes. And then we've got the Wellory, which just opened up in October, and that's one of the top properties in the state.
Wow.
And it is, and certainly one of the top 3 or 4 in the Huntsville market. But very elevated finishes, great amenity space, really high, just high attention to detail. So you walk into it, and it's like it's got that wow factor, and it's also got a net zero factor as well. Solar energy on the top fuels all the electricity for the common areas. And so,
and that's a fairly unique. There's not too many properties within the state or even within the city that have something like that.
That's the first one in the state.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And then I think I remember, seeing that construction being built and kind of seeing, what was it going to look like and kind of that finished product. And I mean, the space, the photos are incredible. I would suggest anyone that's listening or watching to definitely check out the Wellory. Obviously, it just opened a few months before this recording, but it's a pretty unique property here at MidCity.
It is, yeah. It's fabulous. It's a beautiful property. And then the other one is Anthem House, which is kind of another first. It is a combination of a hotel, short stay kind of hotel, and apartments all in one property. So the upper floors are true apartments. You can rent them by the 12-month lease, 14-month lease. They do come fully furnished, but the lower floors are a hotel. And so you can book that online. You can book it for a night. You can book it for a weekend. You can book it, for longer terms if you want to. But we've got people coming to the Orion or coming to town that want to be in MidCity. That's where they can stay now. And so it's truly a hotel, but we're blurring the lines between hotel and multifamily. So we don't have that here in Huntsville. You can go to Nashville and there's a few properties there. But yeah, it's totally a unique kind of product.
Yeah.
And it's mostly smaller units, that could flex between, the concept. There is a lot of short stay defense contractors that come to town. But some of them want to be here, 6 months or, shorter term leases. So that is an option there. So the design of that is really intended for, singles and, could be couples, but it's kind of smaller footprint units.
Yeah. And then with a lot of the announcements, I think most recently with the announcement of Eli Lilly coming here, how in tandem do you see the Anthem House kind of working with, those new developments, as manufacturing, the stuff at Mazda, Toyota that are, hey, they're coming in for a short stay. Either it's a new piece of machinery getting built and there's an expert coming in that's going to stay for 3 months versus, because with the surrounding areas too around MidCity with Research Park and the Arsenal and everything happening out in Limestone County with Eli Lilly and Mazda, Toyota, like the Anthem House seems like the perfect fit to kind of integrate itself into kind of the current and the future workforce coming here to Huntsville.
That's intentional, and that's what it was designed for, is to really cater to those types of situations where people are needing something shorter stay, but they don't want to be at a typical hotel. And so it's a new concept, and we're excited to have it and excited to bring it to the market here. It's not even fully complete yet. We've got one section of it that's not completed yet, and so but it's open. You can stay there. It's been open for a few months, but it's truly unique. But we've got over 1,000 units at MidCity.
Wow!
So we've kind of hit a critical mass. 1,000 units is kind of a psychological number, particularly for developers coming into a market. A lot of them will tell you, if I'm going into a new market, I want to have at least 1,000 units. And so we've kind of crossed that threshold. And what that's doing is it's activating MidCity. It's then you've got people walking their dogs, you've got people eating breakfast here, so people are living here 24/7. And so that activates the area, creates opportunities for retail, for entertainment, and for office uses. So there's that full live, work, play kind of concept that you hear about. That's what we've created here, and the multifamily is a way to drive that and create demand for these other types of uses, and make it alive.
Yeah, and I think that walkability has been something that's been kind of that buzzword as far as some recent articles that have come out, kind of talking about some of this different developments all across the country and kind of that walkability feature. We talk about it a lot on the podcast, and I think it's interesting to look back at maybe some of our first conversations when there wasn't maybe but one or two multifamily properties here at MidCity to now seeing that volume that MidCity has, and how that really kind of changes the district, how it gives opportunities for new developments to come in, new businesses, new restaurants, new whatever, because it is that, hey, we have 1,000 people potentially plus living here, working here, and will be enjoying your restaurant, your concept, your business. I think it's interesting too, because we talk kind of that initial growth that we've had over the last few years with Huntsville in general. And as we're sitting here recording this episode at the end of 2025, what do you kind of see the landscape of multifamily looking like, maybe within MidCity moving into 2026, as well as really the city as at large, the Huntsville-Madison area with multifamily, with all these announcements? I mean, are we going to see more properties being built, or have we kind of plateaued as far as the volume of properties, and kind of just going to see a lot of properties kind of finish development in 2026?
Yeah, great question. And there's a lot there to unpack. So let's see. I guess let me start off by kind of where we are in the cycle of the market. So we've had this huge construction boom, and so we've been adding units faster than they can get absorbed. We say, and so occupancies as a market have come down. And when occupancies come down, owners want to entice people to come to their property, and so it creates a very competitive landscape. And so people start offering specials like 1 month free or 2 months free or 3 months free. And so we're in that situation now, and we have been the last 2 years, where concessions, the rent specials are elevated and growing. And so it's great for renters because they get, cheaper rent, better deals. But it's created a lot of pressure for ownership and investors and developers. And so we're overbuilt, and we have been for a year or two, but we're coming out of that. The good news is we've had about 1,000 units delivered in this last quarter, and going into 2026, we're probably going to have less than 1,000 actually new units coming to market, getting delivered to market, which that's the lowest amount we've had in 7 years. And so, but population drives renter households, and employment does too. But I mean, they all work together. But our population for Huntsville is now, the last 2 years, has been about over 13,000 a year, and it was like 5,000 and 6,000 a year 7 or 8 years ago. So we've grown dramatically,
100%.
And so that's been fueling this demand. So we think that continues with all these announcements going on, all the growth. I think we've hit a critical mass, and there's a lot of energy that's around the Huntsville market now. And so I don't see any decline in population happening. I think it's just going to continue to escalate. And so what does that do? That triggers a need for more housing. And so as people move here, and so I think our demand is going to be really high still, and the amount of new product coming to market has reached almost not an all-time low, but a 7-year low, and it's going to remain low because capital markets are difficult to get equity for apartments. Debt was very difficult to get for a few years, but it's getting better now. And so, but just our rental rate levels have gotten a little depressed because of the specials that people are offering. So, and we're kind of perceived now as kind of a weaker market because our occupancies are down, rents are down. And so it's not a great time to go say, hey, I want to build another property. It's like, wow, you've got too many already. You need to absorb what you've got. And I think this time next year, I think we're going to be in a totally different situation because the demand for apartments is going to remain high, I believe, and the supply that we have to deal with is dwindling daily, and so we're going to get back in balance. I'm very confident we're going to get back in balance next year, and we're going to be in a very healthy situation at this time. Next year.
And I think it's interesting too. I mean, I from looking at maybe MidCity's perspective and kind of the multifamily landscape here, when you're looking at a, hey, when MidCity is master planning and they're thinking, hey, we're going to have these 4 different multifamily, we're going to have this walkability, people are going to live here. When you're building these properties, or how much of that conversation is had of not only where we are today when the property is getting built, but where we're going to be in the future, and then also then planning on, you do see it kind of plateauing maybe a little bit as far as new properties in 2026, but maybe by the end of 2026, more developments, more announcements. How do you kind of balance, future growth with current landscape and making sure that you're not putting yourself and backing yourself into a corner?
Right. Well, and these types of projects, these large apartment complexes, not just the ones at MidCity, but the typically 200, 300 unit apartment properties that've been cropping up everywhere. Those take about usually 2 years before somebody finds the land and decides, yes, I want to pursue the site, and then they go through the planning stage. I mean, that can take a year before they just get to the point that I'm ready to start.
Yeah.
And
landscape changes and like the demand changes so drastically in such a short amount of time.
And then once they start building and start their site work and building, it can be another 9 months before they have units ready, the first units. And then it's another 9 months or 12 months before they finish. So this is a long-term, 2-3 year cycle that you're looking at to get a unit, to get properties out of the ground, get them ready to lease, and so the climate can change. The shifts can change. And what we ran into here was just cheap money, easy process to get development. There was a severe underreporting of what was here by the national sources. And so there was, roughly half of the properties. I could drive you around and show you, let's say 75 properties. And what was getting reported by national sources was 35 properties. And so it's like, hey guys, you're missing half of the market here. And so a lot of the developers didn't pick up on that. And so, so that contributed, but it takes a long time to get these out of the ground. We are very much forward looking and always forecasting, always, anticipating what's happening. And that's part of one reason I'm here now, is to help with that process and be involved with that. But another element that I'm really excited about is, and another reason I came on board was it was time to start the conversation again about for sale product here, like condominiums, and something you could buy and not just rent. And so that's something we looked at probably 5 years ago. And then another couple, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it wasn't quite ready. The property, it was construction zone.
Yeah, 100%.
And so now it's feeling like a real place. And you've got restaurants, you've got some retail, you've got people living here. So you've got, a lot of streets that you can drive down and not hit construction things. So, so the climate is a lot better now to start thinking about that and to figure out what that could look like, how big that could be, what kind of amenities, what kind of price point, figuring out all those different things. So that'll be a focus in 2026 is investigating that and determining when's the right time and what's the right product, and that exercise to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the stages of MidCity and then the ability to be a walkable district, a couple of years ago when we maybe even first started the podcast, there wasn't tons of sidewalk connections all the way through because there was so much construction happening. Right. So it's really hard to, you can say you're a walkable district, you can look like a walkable district, but until you really have the infrastructure built, you're not really a walkable district. Right. And so now you kind of have this, the perfect storm is in place. I mean, I appreciate you taking the time. I feel like that, we've covered a lot of the growth of multifamily here in Huntsville, the current landscape with multifamily. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you would like to add as far as, multifamily within MidCity, within the city as a whole, kind of for the listener?
Well, I think the big news, at least in the real estate sector, is we're coming out of this. The wave has crested, and the supply spigot is being turned off, and we're going to start absorbing better. And so next year is going to be a year of healing for our market. And for renters, there's it's very affordable right now, and we're very affordable relative to anywhere in the country. And so if anybody's listening from wherever they are in the country, take a look at Huntsville, and it's got just a great quality of life and a great, it's easy to get around. It's good schools. It's good employment opportunities. And, we'd love for you to consider MidCity in that. But we're very excited about the future here. We think the future is, extremely bright, and we're excited to be part of that growth here.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes, links to some of the properties here at MidCity. So if you want to find out more information about MidCity, about maybe the multifamily opportunities here at MidCity, Anthem House, the Wellory, Encore, and Metronome, we'll have links in the episode notes. But I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Clark. Appreciate it. I enjoyed it.